This is something completely different from anything I do on this channel. Now, for those of you that know me from this channel, I like music, and for those of you that would know me from the sports channel, I like sports. But a lot of people may not know, or you may know, I mean the poster here probably gives it away, that I'm big into comic books. I really like comic books, and especially Batman. I think for some reason he's just my favorite superhero character, even though some people wouldn't categorize him as superhero. Whatever, it is what it is. And to me, I think the reason what makes his stories so interesting is he's got a lot of historical villains. Like, when people name villains from comic books, they mainly go to Batman villains, like the Riddler, Two-Face, of course the Joker, Catwoman, even though Catwoman's more of an anti-hero, but you know, she still steals, so that is what it is there. And speaking of the Joker, who is my favorite villain of Batman's, we also have his counterpart, sidekick slash girlfriend later on, Harley Quinn, who you would be surprised was only supposed to be a one-and-done thing, but has since become just a mainstay of a character and has been around for only 30 or 29 years, almost 30 years I should say at this point, and I know that's technically a long time for a lot of people, but the Joker was in the first ever Batman issue comic in 1940. So what took them so long with making this Harley Quinn thing come to light? Well, in 1992, during the animated series, they thought it'd be cool to kind of introduce this, you know, one-off character of Harley Quinn, this, I guess you can say, servant for the Joker. And that character was so popular, and after the episode Joker's Favor, which was the episode she first appeared on, happened, she started making more frequent appearances on the show, and then she made her comic book debut in 1993 on Batman Adventures number 12. That's unusual for a comic book character to get an on-screen adaptation before a comic book adaptation, but that's how it went with Harley Quinn. Now, she wouldn't get her first, I guess you can say, standalone comic until 1999 in Batman and Harley Quinn number 1, and that's really when she became, officially one of the faces of DC villains. Around 92 to 97, before this comic came out, she was just kind of plastered in some areas, even appearing in one of the early Batman animated series video games. But for the most part, she wasn't the super popular character that we've come to know. And today, I'm going to take a look at, I think, the three major, Harley Quinn characters that we've come to see over the years, that being the animated series character, played by Arleen Sorkin, of course Margot Robbie from the past 3 movie adaptations and the only 3 live-action movie adaptations of Harley Quinn, and Kaley Cuoco, who currently voices Harley Quinn in the Harley Quinn series, formerly of FX, now going to be on HBO Max's Season 3, will begin soon, in a couple months basically. They said either late 2021 or early 2022, so very soon in this case. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through those 3, rank them, and it's basically tell you who I think is the best when it comes to the Harley Quinns. Now, I'm only choosing these 3 because there have been other interpretations, in the comic books or other straight-to DVD or TV movies, but I want to talk about strictly the 3 very well-known ones. Everybody pretty much knows that these ones exist, and some of them follow real true to the, well, I can't say true to the comics, because one of them didn't even have a comic to go off of, so why don't we start off with the first ever Harley Quinn, that being Arleen Sorkin. Now, she never played her on the big screen or anything, but she did voice her in the 1992 Batman animated series, mainly because the creator of the series said that Arleen Sorkin was that's where the Harley Quinn character was based off of. And all she had to go off of, really, was a script. There was, no, like I mentioned, comic book to read and go, oh yeah, this is what I should do for this character. And again, if she first appeared on the episode Joker's Favor in September 1992 with the intentions of being a one-off character, but that character became popular, that eventually, not only did she go from being Joker's servant to Joker's girlfriend, but she started making more appearances on the show. And the reason they were so hesitant was because they didn't want to give Joker a girlfriend, because they thought, with him being psychotic and crazy, him getting in this love relationship just would make him more vulnerable, but they took that risk, and it worked to perfection. And one thing that Arleen Sorkin did that the script did not originally plan was the New York accent. With Sorkin's big and obvious New York accent, she pretty much threw it out there and it worked for the character, who now they say, I think Harley Quinn is supposed to be from Brooklyn, New York, so it all makes sense at this point. You would think, okay, so they're insinuating that New York is basically like near Gotham, which again makes sense. They're kind of both cities similar to each other, minus the villains, but you know, our Gotham is a fictional place, just like Metropolis is. And for a while, Harley Quinn's character, other than the animated series, would just kind of disappear. I mean, during this time, the animated series, there was 3 other movies made, and even the first movie in Tim Burton in 1989 that featured the Joker, Harley Quinn didn't appear in it because, well, she didn't exist yet. And even by the time that she did start to exist in Batman Returns, the last Tim Burton movie, the Penguin and Catwoman were the main 2 bad guys, and then when you got to Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, the Joel Schumacher-led pieces of garbage, you know, you had, you know, more Two-Face and the Riddler coming in, and then Uma Thurman playing Poison Ivy, which that could have worked out well too, but this was before they really started getting into the whole more than just friends thing for Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. Plus, in that universe, the Joker was dead, so Harley Quinn wouldn't exist, which obvious why they kept her out. Also in that movie was Bane and Mr. Freeze, but they don't really matter at this point in time. The first ever movie adaptation of Harley Quinn would come in 2016 when Margot Robbie took the role up for Suicide Squad. Now, Harley Quinn was actually planned to have an earlier live-action adaptation, as after The Dark Knight ended and Batman took the Joker to Arkham, their plan for the 3rd movie in the series, the final movie in the Christopher Nolan trilogy, was to base it off of the video game that was about to come out. Batman Arkham Asylum, Joker takes over Arkham, blah blah blah, Batman's gonna stop him, and that was gonna be the introduction to Harley Quinn, which a lot of people rumor the way she looked in the game was the way she was supposed to look in the movie. But after Heath Ledger's untimely death before The Dark Knight came out, they canned that idea, took an extra year, and then they did the whole Bane monstrosity thing.
You should have respected my authority.
Then made probably the worst Batman movie since Batman and Robin, but can argue that a lot of people like The Dark Knight Rises. I don't. So yeah, 2016 we were settled on the first ever live adaptation of Harley Quinn when Margot Robbie came in on Suicide Squad, and she did have the comics to go off of and the animated series, but she also had the opportunity to make this character her own. Now that it's live action, the look can be different, and it definitely was. I mean, you can see it back here, and she still kept that New York accent, kind of making it like a significant part of Harley Quinn. Like it felt like it needed to be there. And I think this Harley Quinn too, we started to see more as an anti-hero. As, yeah, okay, the first Suicide Squad, it goes through a little love thing with the Joker, but then she returned for the role in Birds of Prey in 2018, and then this most recent Suicide Squad, which a lot better than the first movie, I will tell you that. It basically goes to show that Harley doesn't necessarily have a good side, but she's not as psychotic as you would make it out to be. She's down to do heist and all that stuff, but she really doesn't want to be like a villain. She just wants to be herself. And yeah, I think that really helps out there as well. And, you know, I can see why, you know, Margot Robbie took the opportunity to take this role so she can make it kind of her own thing, and now she's known as one of the more popular, if not the most popular, Harley Quinn adaptation, as really she's had 3 different looks since she's taken over the role, mainly because she didn't like the first outfit, and then did the whole thing in Birds of Prey, and then they kind of paid an homage to the old gesture outfit of Harley Quinn when she kind of wore the same colors on that jacket that she had, and kind of brought back the whole red and black aesthetic. After the first Suicide Squad movie, and even Birds of Prey, there was a cartoon adaptation, which, by the way, not for kids. I just watched the first 2 seasons on HBO Max. I'm all caught up now. Yeah, definitely not for kids. Would not recommend showing your kids that. I avoided it because I thought it was going to be like a really girly cartoon, but it's actually not. It was actually a really good series, and again, can't wait for season 3. But yes, Kaley Cuoco then took over the voice acting role of Harley Quinn in this animated series, which started in 2019. And, I mean, with hers, it definitely is a bit different. I mean, her look basically goes off of the Harley Quinn Volume 3, issue number 43, where she's got, you know, obviously the pigtails with the two different colored tips, and just the outfit overall was the same from that one. This basically goes through her breakup with the Joker and how she's trying to, you know, become her own thing, kind of like they did with Birds of Prey in this kind of way, although in Birds of Prey, the Joker wasn't the main bad guy, wasn't irritating her, she was just doing her own thing, whereas the whole first season of the animated series of this, Joker is kind of like messing with her mind because she wants to be the best villain she can be, she wants to outdo the Joker, become the new feared Joker, and that's another thing I liked about this character again, it's the whole anti-hero thing. We get to see that she does have a good side, or at least a better side than just what she was before when she was with the Joker, and this is also the first time they explore the whole Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn love thing as the relationship starts toward the end of Season 2, actually right at the tail end of Season 2, is when Harley professes her love to Poison Ivy, to which Poison Ivy says, I love you, and Season 3 is supposed to basically be about their whole relationship and whatever, this, that, and the other. So this is the first time that it's really introduced the bisexual partnership of those two, as that wasn't just something they threw in there. I think that's been a part of the comics since like 2003 or 4. They've been doing that for a while. I think after the popularity of those two characters started to rise and we've known them to be best friends, I guess maybe they wanted them to be more than friends and kind of break this barrier in comic books for superheroes that no one really ever saw before. And you would think too, oh, a psychopath and a villain, it makes perfect sense. I don't know what their logic is there either, because Poison Ivy, although a supervillain, gotta think about it, she's trying to make the environment better, that's why she kills, that's why she blows shit up, because it's probably nuclear or just bad for the environment, you know? But either way, I feel like all three of these adaptations of Harley Quinn are very good, but with Kaley Cuoco's, I think I have to rank her the worst one. It's not that she's bad, I like it, I really do like it. I think taking away the New York accent really threw me off a bit. I know that can be like a bit of a stretch when it comes to like finding things about this character I dislike, but again, when we think Harley Quinn, we think of that distinct accent that she has, like, oh yeah, she's from New York City. As a matter of fact, there's an episode in that series where she travels back to New York, or at least goes back to New York to see her mom and dad and her grandmother, who all have New York accents, but yet she doesn't, and most of the time accents are a genetic thing, so I don't know, maybe it's just from all those years being around the Joker, but there's also times too when she is around the Joker and she does the whole, oh, Puddin' thing or Mr. J thing, and the accent is there, but something leads me to believe that that was probably something that she was playing off or faking this whole time. I don't know with that, but yeah, I mean, I would give Kaley Cuoco's version a 3.5 out of 5, because like I said, it's not bad, and it definitely does stay true to the character of, oh, she's not necessarily bad, she's just still trying to find her own way, and this, that, and the other, and the series is just so interesting, and you get to meet all of her other friends. But I really feel like Margot Robbie and Arlene Sorkin definitely have the two best. I couldn't really decide, because when you look at Arlene Sorkin, hers was definitely a lot harder to do because of not having really anything to go off of but the script that she was reading, and she never did it in live action, so there's no other live action adaptation of Harley Quinn that I can really, you know, go off of other than Margot Robbie playing it 3 times on the big screen and it making big bucks, and I gave them both a 4 out of 5 because, again, I feel like Arlene Sorkin made the character what it was, and Margot Robbie took that character, was able to make it her own for the big screen, for the non-cartoon version, and it's become one of the more historical looks and one of the more historical characters in the history of comic books, whereas I think this Kaley Cuoco just kind of, you know, goes into depth with some different things, but doesn't really change it much. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's still Harley Quinn, you know, she does a good job, but this doesn't add anything super unique to the table. It's just kind of like there, and, you know, I just think the show is written really well to where it doesn't really bug you really that much at all. So, yeah, that's my take on this. You can tell me in the comments below, out of the 3 I mentioned, which one is your favorite? Like, which one do you think is historical? I mean, we all are going to have our different opinions on this, especially certain comic book nerds, but I mean, hey, those were like the 3 big Harley Quinn adaptations that I could really think of that I think were fair enough to make here an assumption on all and rank them all from basically worst to best, but I felt like it was very unfair for Kaley to be a part of this, but I mean, other than the Harley Quinn series and, you know, Margot Robbie's interpretation and Arleen Sorkin on the animated series, I was like, who else is there really to go off of and compare? Because there's been, like I said, a lot of one-off Batman cartoon movies and TV series where she's appeared where, you know, you just never kind of see that Harley Quinn again. So I've been just one off the ones that had the most footage to offer. So yeah, like I said, that's my opinion on it. Would really love to hear yours. And until then, tell me if you like this type of video. I might do more comic book stuff. Heck, I'm even planning on looking at every single one of the Jokers, from Mark Hamill's to Jack Nicholson's to Cesar Ramos's, Jared Leto's, Joaquin Phoenix's, and Heath Ledger's, and just kind of going through them, which one I think is the worst, which one I think is the best, and just kind of giving you my overall opinion on it. So yeah, stay safe out there, wear your mask, get vaccinated, and until then I will catch you all in the next one.